So I'm standing here with Vic Malhotra. So Vic, what are you working on now?
My latest project, well, I'm working on two projects right now, actually. One's with IDW. It's called X-Files Year Zero.
Yes.
And that one is a look into the creation of the first X-Files team. So there's a man and a woman from 1946 that end up trying to solve the case, and they become the first X-Files duo, I guess. Another book that I'm working on, which is a book that I created with a writer that I know named Michael Marisi, is the book's called Roche Limit, and that one just came out on September 24th, so this previous Wednesday, and that's with Image Comics. It's like a sci-fi noir. We describe it as Blade Runner meets 2001 Space Odyssey.
Yeah.
So it's very sci-fi, but there's a missing person, there's a detective, there's a cop.
So it's more of a detective kind of type story?
Yeah. I mean, it just happens to take place in a sci-fi setting, like a space colony.
Okay.
But it transforms a lot. Like, it's just like the first arc is going to be 5 issues.
Yeah.
And that will kind of finish up the story that we start with the first issue. On this, the second arc is completely different. Like, we've been describing it as a trilogy.
Yeah.
So there'll be 3 parts, each part being 5 issues, and they're not related in the obvious ways, but they're related thematically and overall.
Okay, so they sort of connect, but they don't really.
Like
it's not a linear thing.
Exactly. Like, the main characters from this portion, they never appear in the second portion.
Okay.
That portion actually takes place 50 or 100 years in the future. So.
Now, who are the characters in this story?
In this story, there's 2 main characters. There's a woman from Earth named Sonia, and there's a man who lives on the colony called Roche Limit. His name's Alex.
Yeah.
And they somehow end up teaming together to try to find Sonia's missing sister. And she's kind of gone missing in the beginning of the issue in a really strange way that we kind of show, but
yeah, we don't want to get into too much.
Yeah.
How did you get started working into the comics?
Well, I did it for years, and I did some self-published stuff, some projects with local creators. One of them that's kind of known as Tiger Lawyer.
Yeah.
That's with a creator from Calgary. We made, so we've been doing that for a while. I ended up meeting somebody at this same convention 2 years ago, actually, an artist named Zach Howard. And he's done stuff for Marvel, DC, IDW, everybody.
Yeah.
And I came specifically to meet him. And I was like, Zach Howard, like, I really dig his work, so let me go talk to him. So I brought my portfolio. And he checked it out, and he's like, this is really good. He's like, surprisingly, because usually I get portfolios and they're not very good, and this was very good. So he took my contact information, and we became like friends. But he passed my information on to IDW, their head editor, and that's how I was able to get my first book with them, which was like a Joe Hill 3-issue miniseries called Thumbprint, which is like a huge opportunity.
Yeah.
And at the time, I had a day job. I was working at 630 Ched because like my background is in sales and marketing. And once they offered that job to me, it was like, do I stay doing radio sales, or do I kind of follow my dreams and become a comic artist? Yeah, it seems kind of obvious now, but you never know how it's going to work out.
It's a big leap of faith to do something sort of like that, right?
Yeah, it is. And I've had offers previously to do books for some smaller publishers like Boom Studios and stuff like that, but this one seemed like the right opportunity.
Yeah. Because
Joe Hill's like a really well-known author, and it was a good way to come into the industry.
And Thumbprint, it was pretty well received.
Yeah.
Overall, anyways.
Overall, I think it's a very particular story.
Yeah.
I wouldn't recommend it to kids, of course, but I don't recommend it to all comic readers because it's a very different type of story. Like that, the protagonist in Thumbprint is very hard to root for, and it's hard to read a story where you're not cheering for the main character.
Yeah.
Like, they don't have any redeeming qualities. So I find it to be a really interesting story, and the way we adapted it, it was a lot of fun and daunting.
It's really a different type of story, right?
Yeah.
Like, and not everyone's going to always receive it the right way, but I mean, you don't always want to see the exact same thing over and over and over again.
That's right, and nobody's happy with like everything. There's comics that I like, and there's comics that I don't like, and that goes for everybody. So we know like we just want to capture a specific audience, and what I love is branching out from like typical comics fare. Nothing against superhero comics or anything like that, but there's so many of them. I really embrace it when the medium kind of branches out and tries to tackle sci-fi or crime books or even Chip's book, Sex Criminals. Like
we're getting so many different types of stories now, right? Like when we were growing up, it was all just superhero comics, and that's all we had. But now we're getting stories like Saga and the Sex Criminals, right? Like we're getting so many different types of stories. And it's so good to see, right?
Yeah, and I think that's why I love that Roche Limit's published by Image, because I feel like they were leading the pack in that respect. I think IDW and Dark Horse and Boom, they were publishing those kind of titles, but they kind of fell under the radar, and Image somehow was able to get that on the forefront. And I've met so many comic readers who are always like, I used to buy lots of Marvel and DC comics, and now I feel like almost all the stuff I buy is from Image Comics.
Exactly.
I just love like buying the very individual stories that the creators are making, rather than stories where creators are playing with toys that are owned by another company.
That's great. Well, thank you so much.
Anytime.
All right.